So I always hesitate to make videos like this. These wheels have a very strange backstory. I originally had done the faces on these wheels, and we were going to be getting different lips for them. And I don't remember exactly what it was that transpired, but they ended up going in, the faces just went back, they were gloss black. Went back to the owner. That owner, I think at some point, took him to another powder coater, one that he was friends with. That powder coater redid these wheels. Now, I'm going to go over some of the reasons that you don't let people that don't know what they're doing touch three-piece wheels. And that's why I'm such a big advocate of doing stuff the right way with three-piece wheels, why I have tutorials on how to reassemble or disassemble wheels, what needs mast, what doesn't. But these wheels are basically just a shit show, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. A guy posted these about a week ago, and he said, "Hey, does anybody know why these wheels won't go back together?" And I saw them, and I could tell right away what the issue was. Probably anybody who's into wheels would have known just the same. And if my suspicions are correct here, when I put this face in the stripper, underneath this, this is bronze chrome with Casper clear from the looks of it. I'm guessing that underneath this is gloss black powder. And what that means is that they did not strip my finish off before putting their own on, which isn't a big shock. The company that actually did these wheels, I believe, is already out of business. It was a short-lived, around less than a year type scenario. This customer got them from a used car dealership. He bought a car, wanted these wheels. I believe they worked some sort of trade or deal to end up with them. That dealership said that another local powder coater is who powder coated these, which is very much not true. These wheels were coated by a coater who I know who is. In fact, the pictures of them are still up on their Instagram page. And this dealership said that a more well-known local shop did them, just lying to the customer, I'm guessing, to get them into the deal. So we're gonna pull these apart. I guess actually I could show you. So one of the main issues, well, I'll pull them all the way apart first. There's no point in going over it right now. Because really the main issue with these is, my assumption is, on the bore flange, which is this in here, are 3 full layers of powder plus the powder that these guys put on this lip, because I didn't do the lips ever. And let's see. And then they were sold, or traded to this customer, I guess partially assembled or not assembled, mostly because they can't be assembled. They physically can't be assembled. And I'm going to go over some of the reasons as to why, and some things to look out for if you're going to be getting expensive wheels and you want to see if they were done right, because these ones were not. So let's put this barrel down here on the ground. I'm going to grab the camera here. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna put these in the stripper and take a look at them and see if I can't guess, but you can see this lip is 100% stuck on here. One of the issues, so this wheel was actually started to be assembled wrong. As you can see, this was bolted to that. These faces are rear mount faces. So the lip and barrel go together, and then this piece comes in from the back. But that was an option. So some things to look out for here. So the company who powder coated these didn't touch any of the curb rash, none of it. There's curb rash on a few spots on this lip. I mean, this is something that you guys have seen me take out in 30 seconds of sanding. This all would have been smoothed out. They did no prep work of any kind on these. In fact, you can still see this is all the original silicone is on all these lips, and it's been powder coated right over, meaning these weren't blasted, prepped in any way, shape, or form. I mean, that's the bare metal that you're seeing right there. That's from me scraping off all this silicone that's still on here. I mean, there's tire stuff still, like the rubber from tires still stuck on here. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then on top of that, the powder coating job is trash anyway, but we're fixing all that regardless. All right, so let's grab this barrel and I'll show you some other issues. So once again, zero prep work was done. This is all the original silicone. And anywhere that I scrape my finger, powder comes off. And this is not, I think these guys were using Sherwin-Williams and prismatic powders, so it's not like this is like a cheap powder issue. This is just a we're too lazy to do the work issue. It's like that literally everywhere on the wheel. I mean, it doesn't matter where I do it. You can scrape it all off. So, like I said, I'm gonna go throw these. You can even see down here, just scrape it comes right off. I'm gonna go throw these faces in the stripper. We're not doing anything to these barrels. I'm gonna clean the silicone off and prep this area to be resealed. And then we are redoing the faces, and then the lips are being polished out. So these guys also powder coated the bolts, these 12-point bolts, which if you do it right, can work. As you can see, this one, the powder is way too thick and you have to jam a tool on just to get it to even go together. So we'll get this project going. So I put these in this strip tank because I wanted to make sure, oh yeah, there it is, just as I thought. The original black powder that I put on these. I put these in this tank, which is just like remnants basically of the stripper, just so I could, this goes a little slower. I just wanted to make sure that the black that I had sprayed on here was for sure underneath this bronze, and as you can see, it was. Big shock. Alright, now with these stripped, I figured it'd be a good chum to show you guys. I mean, you know, one of the other reasons that you don't bring 3-piece wheels to random shops that don't know what they're doing is that this lip is still the machine finish. Actually, it still had the anodizing on it. My stripper takes off the anodizing, the hydrofluoric in it. But as you can see, it's still shiny. It's never sandblasted, never anything. And then there's, of course, as we saw before, there's a ton of curb rash all in here. I don't know if that'll actually focus on it, but there's a ton of curb rash and nicks, and there's one spot, yeah, right here, it looks like they started to sand, but then they have this whole thing here. So we're gonna get these cleaned up and get them polished. All right, got these things out of the rim strip. All 3 layers of powder are now off, went through the neutralization tank, rinse tank. These were blasted by me previously, so that's why you see there's a lot of staining from going in the rim strip and all that. So things into blasting and then into outgas. These things all stripped, blasted, outgas, blasted again, and now we're just going to tape them up. We're going to be taping right here on these. You know, the person who powder coated these after me did not tape these, and they just stacked powder on powder on powder. So on this flange where it made it up, there was 3 coats on this, and on the lip there was another one, so that's 4 coats of powder, meaning there was no chance that these were going to be going together. I'm taping this off. We're just putting the silver over top of these, and then the lips have been repolished, so they will go back together like nothing. So we'll tape this back pad first. Then hopefully we'll get these coated, get the lips cleaned up a little bit. They still have some compound on them from going to polishing. And get all the nuts and bolts together. I'm actually going to be replacing the bolts, it seems. You know, whoever ended up with these after I had them ended up powder coating the bolts, and it looks like they probably sprayed them hot based on how much powder they got on them. I mean, they're a 12-point bolt head, I should say, and they're I mean, you can't even see the points in the head at all. That's how bad it is. So I have some black bolts of the same size. They're not original work hardware, but you know, it's not going to matter too much for this. So we'll slap those ones in there instead. And then, how did you guys like the Q&A thing the other day? I admit I was moderately nervous that nobody would pop into it, so I was glad to see that it at least had people in there and like a pretty constant flow of questions, which was nice. I'm gonna try to do one of those maybe every week, and I'll try to do it on a little bit of a schedule so at least people know. I know this last one was kind of a very last minute decision. I was like, hey, I'm gonna do a Q&A in 2 hours, so be there if you want to be there. So we'll try to get to those, assuming that there's, I guess there, I mean, it looked like there was a bunch of people commenting who missed it, meaning they might have had questions as well. But like I told you guys before, don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer whatever I can for you guys. And you know, I got a comment the other day from somebody. Actually, I think he messaged me on Instagram, and he asked me why I don't shout out some of the other powder coating pages that shout me out. Well, mostly I don't typically shout out anybody. Just a part of the, you know, like the biggest thing. Like I'll shout out like actual friends, like the guy who did my painting of my dog. I shout him out for sure. But he's, you know, I've been friends with him for 12 years basically. So actually longer than that now that I think about it. So I just don't do shout outs typically, and if it's a powder coating channel, the only issue I have shouting those guys out period is if you're giving out bad information, I'm likely not gonna shout you out, just because there's nothing I hate more than spreading misinformation. And one of the ways that I can stop the spread of misinformation is to not tell people to go listen to other people. So anyway, all right, got these all taped up. This is the last one. I'm gonna start throwing some silver at it. Okay, got this ready to spray. Color is IFS, what is this, Silverdillo. It's a bonded silver, bonded metallic silver. So for you guys that don't know, a bonded metallic means that the metal flake is actually attached to the physical powder coating, as opposed to just being a flake that's mixed in with it. Just allows you to get a little more even coat. It makes sure that the metallic stays really even, I guess is the best way to say that. So KV set to 40, regular tip on this one, 24mm fan, in case anybody's actually that curious. And we'll throw this powder on these. I've never actually sprayed this color before. This is some of the product that IFS sent me to try out. And so far everything, I've liked everything they've sent me, with the exception of, well, they're matte clear. It's not that I didn't like it, it just isn't matte. It's very, very much a satin finish. So, not ideal, obviously. So I've got good coverage. Get this thing thrown in the oven with the rest of them. Alright, so we had sort of gone over this before. These were powder coated by another company with absolutely zero prep work of any kind. And you can see Pretty sure you can see this. Let's see if I can focus it. There we go. You know, the silicone's still on here. They actually powder coated this with the silicone on it, strangely enough. There's two different ways that you can remove this. I've actually showed this before in other, or actually in the 3-piece video. I use a wire wheel on a grinder, but you can sit and just scrape it all off, and then it'll leave some remnants of silicone on there, which you can take a sander and get off, or you can spray it down with acetone. They actually make, you know, bottles that are okay, spray bottles that are okay to put acetone in. You spray it down with that, and when you do that, it dries out the silicone. You basically spray it on, let it sit for a little bit, and you can, you know, essentially take like a towel and scrub it off with a towel, as weird as that sounds. Towel just works really good to grab the stuff and pull it off the metal. So I'm showing this way, this particular way of doing it, but I'm actually gonna get the wire wheel out as well, and we'll do it that way, make this even quicker. I also want to remove all the powder that's up around this mounting flange, just because it's already coming off. All right, so this is my preferred method for removal. This is a cut brush, or a wire cut brush, I think it's called. Just put it on a grinder. Gonna go around, knock all this silicone off and a lot of this finish, since you know, all this finish just comes off scraping your fingernail. This is powder coat, which is, you know, like I said, this is why it really matters where your stuff goes to. And if you're a powder coater, you know, this is why prep is important, because if you don't prep, I can scrape it off with my fingernail. You know, we have some shops here locally. I don't think the company who did this is even in business. I think they were around for about a year, and that was it. So, but we definitely have some powder coaters around here that do this exact same type of nonsense, so it's not a huge shock. So we'll go through right now and knock all this stuff off. All right, so as you can see, it's all cleaned off now. I'm gonna wipe this down with acetone or alcohol just to clean it. But yeah, you can do that to the other couple right now, and these faces are in the oven curing, so as soon as they come out, be ready to slap these all together. Get the lips back from polishing as well. So, and yet another reason why you shouldn't take expensive wheels, or really any wheels, to a crappy powder coater. I guess just powder coat right over the tape, huh? I mean, I already knew these weren't prepped at all anyway. All the original anodizing was still on them, and it was all burnt. And the powder doesn't stick. I mean, you can take the powder off with your fingernail anywhere you want. I'm not doing anything to the barrels. I'm just reassembling these after I did the faces and polished the lips. But yeah, I guess just spray right over the tape, right? It'll be fine. All right, got these things partially assembled, sort of bolted together. Got the a nut on a bolt behind each one of these spokes, just so I can tighten them in a reasonable order. And one of the best things to do, I actually went over this in my 3-piece video as well, is to do these ones by hand. You do the first one, and then you rotate it 2 spots over, and then you do all the bolts like that. Just keep rotating it 2 spots over. So you go 1, 2, and on to the next. And what that allows you to do is that'll get you to tighten these in a star pattern. That way you make sure everything's all seated together before you start tightening all the other bolts up. I'll oftentimes end up sealing them after I do that as well, so that the silicone can start carrying as I tighten the rest of the bolts. So once again, just go 1, 2, another loose bolt. And I got a set of HREs. In another video coming up, they have bolts on the back that have to go in from this side that line up the face, so you can do it a little different on that one. But once again, you go 1, 2. Like I said, this makes a perfect star pattern for everything. And once you know that these are all tightened down, everything's lined up and perfect, you can put all the rest of your bolts in and put nuts on the back of those and tighten them all. So there we go. All tight now. I'm going to go through and tighten all the rest of these. Or put nuts on the back and then tighten all the rest of these. Alright, up next is silicone. We'll be done with these things.